My mother-in-law and I visited the bank to deposit $1 billion. As she entered the restroom, a teller secretly slid me a note, "Run, petrified." I feigned a stomachache and fled to my parents' home to make a call, and then... You won't believe what happened to me. One ordinary morning, my mother-in-law and I were on our way to deposit a cool $1 million. While she was in the restroom, a bank teller, a complete stranger, secretly slipped me a note. 2 words were scrawled across it. "Run." My blood ran cold. Can you even imagine? I mean, how do you even process something like that? Run? What the hell was happening? Petrified, I faked a stomach cramp that would have won me an Oscar, fled to my parents' house, and made a frantic call. What unfolded next was a terrifying rabbit hole of betrayal, a meticulously planned scheme that would have left me utterly shattered, had I not been given that one cryptic warning. That morning started with a strange, heavy dread. The sky was unusually gloomy, bruised clouds hanging low, promising a downpour. It felt like the city itself was holding its breath. My mother-in-law, Carol, had been up since dawn. Her relentless clatter and the thump-thump of her slippers made sleeping impossible, even though I'd been up late balancing the books for our small custom furniture business. "Clara, are you up yet?" Her voice boomed up the stairs. "Hurry up or we'll get stuck in a long line and be there all day." I dragged myself downstairs. Carol was already clutching a dark blue canvas duffel bag to her chest, her knuckles white around the straps, as if someone might snatch it right out of her hands. Inside that bag was our entire future, a neat $1 million in cash, bundled tightly. It was the sweat and tears Ethan, my husband, and I had poured into our business over 5 grueling years. It even included the $3,000 my parents had given me as a wedding gift, money I'd never dared to touch. Ethan, usually so calm, was already dressed and standing, his car keys jingling nervously in his hand. "You and Mom be careful, okay?" he said, his eyes flickering away from mine. "I have an early meeting with the supplier, so I can't take you. Call me when you're done, and I'll come pick you up." I brushed off the strange glance, thinking he was just preoccupied with work. If only I knew. During the entire Uber ride, Carol never loosened her grip on that bag. Every few minutes she'd pat it, almost caressing the thick bundles of cash. Then, she turned to me, her voice sickeningly sweet, sending a shiver down my spine. "Clara, honey, I've been thinking. When we make the deposit, let's put the savings account in my name. Seniors often get preferential interest rates, much better than what they offer you young people." A vague sense of unease coiled in my stomach. My name? Most of this money was from my hard work, our joint efforts. Finding it in her name felt wrong. I gently declined. "I don't think that's necessary, Mom. It's better if it's in our names for business transactions. If the company needs capital quickly, it's faster to withdraw that way. I wouldn't want to bother you." The friendly veneer shattered instantly. Her face darkened, resentment flashing in her eyes. "What?" she snapped, her voice sharp. "Are you afraid I'm going to steal your money? I'm holding it for this family. When I'm gone, it all goes to you and Ethan anyway. It's not like I can take it to the grave with me." The air grew thick with tension. At Liberty Trust Bank, the cool air conditioning made me shudder. It was unusually quiet for a weekday, only a few tellers behind the thick glass. Carol pulled me straight to window 3, where a woman with sharp features and a neat bun was stationed. Carol slammed the duffel bag onto the counter. "I'd like to open a 1-year certificate of deposit with this," she announced, chin held high. "In my name." I was about to protest, but she'd already slapped her driver's license on the counter. She shot me a look, a challenge, a command, and I hesitated, silenced. The teller, Grace, whose name tag I now saw, looked up at Carol, then at me. Her gaze lingered for a moment longer than necessary. There was something in her eyes, a mix of scrutiny and deep sympathy. As Grace began feeding the bundles of cash into the counting machine, the whirring sound filled the tense silence. Suddenly, Carol clutched her stomach, her face contorting dramatically. "Oh my goodness, my stomach!" she groaned. "That greasy breakfast must be doing a number on me." She looked at me, a calculated gleam in her eyes. "Clara, you watch the money closely. I have to use the restroom." With that, she scurried toward the restrooms, leaving me standing awkwardly, our entire life savings being counted before me. My hands wrung together, unsure how to handle this bizarre situation without causing a scene. The moment Carol disappeared from view, the money counters stopped. Grace looked up, her eyes quickly scanning the lobby, ensuring no one was watching. Then, with a swift, almost imperceptible movement, she pulled a small folded piece of paper from under a stack of documents. She leaned forward, pushing the note through the slot in the glass, right into my hand, which was resting on the counter. It was lightning fast. Her voice was a mere whisper, but every word was crystal clear. "Don't ask questions. Take this and go now. Run." I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs, threatening to burst. My hand instinctively closed around the paper. An icy chill shot up my spine. 2 stark words, scrawled in urgent handwriting, hit me like a physical blow. Run. This account is flagged. Below it, a phone number. My breath came in ragged gasps. I looked up at Grace, but she had already returned to her professional demeanor, typing on her keyboard as if nothing had happened. Her eyes, however, darted nervously toward the restroom, a silent, terrifying warning. My intuition screamed. I was caught in some terrible scheme, and if I didn't get out immediately, I would lose everything. Just then, I heard the shuffling of Carol's shoes. She was on her way back. In that split second, my survival instinct took over. I clutched my own stomach, doubling over, letting out a theatrical, piercing cry. Oh, it hurts, Mom! My stomach hurts so bad! My shout echoed through the bank, causing the security guard and other customers to turn and stare. Carol rushed back, but her eyes went straight to the pile of money on the counter before they even landed on me. What is it now? She barked, her voice laced with annoyance. You were fine a minute ago. Are you faking it to get out of this? I squeezed out a few pained tears, my face a mask of agony. No, I gasped. I'm serious. It feels like I'm being stabbed. It might be my appendix. Mom, I need to go to the hospital now. I leaned heavily against the counter, forcing my limbs to tremble, cold sweat beading on my forehead. Carol looked at me suspiciously, clicking her tongue. What a pain. We're almost done here. Can't you just sit and wait until I sign the papers? Sign. The word ignited a fresh wave of panic. If she signed, the money would officially be hers. I pushed myself upright, acting as if the pain was unbearable, and swatted her hand away. I can't wait. I have to go to the ER right now. You stay here and deal with your money. With that, I grabbed my purse, bolted for the door like a startled deer, and immediately hailed a taxi. The old South Side neighborhood on Jefferson Avenue, please. Hurry. I told the driver, my voice still shaking. I didn't dare go to our house where Ethan was waiting. I didn't dare go to a hospital, fearing Carol would find me and make a scene. The only sanctuary I could think of was my parents' home. As the taxi pulled away, I saw Carol on the sidewalk, stomping her foot in fury, her face red with rage. Inside the car, I tried to calm myself, my hands slick with sweat, gripping my phone. I dialed the number from the note. After a few agonizingly long rings, someone picked up. A hushed, urgent voice came through the line. Is this Clara? This is Grace. I'm in the supply closet. Grace, what's going on? I choked out, tears already welling up. Why did you tell me to run? Her voice was laced with worry. Listen carefully. The woman you were with, Carol, she came in yesterday. She set up an automatic transfer. She requested that as soon as the $1 million deposit clears, the entire amount is to be immediately wired to an account under the name Vanessa Dubois. The order is pre-authorized. The second the money hits, it's gone. My ears were ringing. The world spun. Vanessa Dubois. The name was unfamiliar, but it carried a chilling finality. It was all a meticulously planned trap. My husband and mother-in-law had tricked me into bringing our life savings to the bank only to have it secretly funneled to someone else. Tears streamed down my face, hot and bitter. I looked out at the bustling city, but all I felt was a profound, icy loneliness. All my trust, all my years of sacrifice, repaid with this cruel, devastating betrayal. I burst into my parents' house like a fugitive escaping a storm. My face was ashen, my breathing shallow and erratic. My parents were in the living room, sipping coffee. Seeing me in such a state, they both shot up in alarm, their mugs clattering. My mother rushed to my side, her warm hand rubbing my back. Clara, honey, what is it? Why are you here? You look like you've seen a ghost. Before I could explain, my phone vibrated violently. The ringtone was shrill and jarring. I glanced at the screen. Ethan, love, was flashing insistently. Below it, a notification showed 20 missed calls in the last 15 minutes. Less than half an hour later, the roar of a motorcycle engine shattered the quiet street. Ethan and Carol stormed into the yard. Carol, not even bothering to take off her helmet, screeched. Clara, where is she? What are you hiding here for? Trying to run off with the money after that pathetic little act at the bank? My father frowned. He stood up, his thin frame exuding the quiet authority of a retired school teacher. Carol, please calm down. Whatever the issue is, come inside and we can discuss it civilly. There's no need to shout in the yard for all the neighbors to hear. Carol stomped into the house, slamming her purse on the table, her eyes darting around like a hawk searching for prey. Ethan followed, his face flushed and sweaty. But the look he gave me held no concern for my well-being, only suspicion and anger. "What is this, Clara?" he said, trying to sound calm, but his voice was strained. "You just ran out of the bank, leaving my mother there all alone. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? Where is the money? Give it to me so I can go finish the deposit." I shrank behind my mother, looking at the man I had shared a bed with for 5 years. Suddenly, he was a terrifying stranger. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice, and decided to test Grace's warning. "The money is already deposited," I said, my voice weak but clear. "I signed the deposit slip right before my stomach started hurting. The confirmation text came to my phone, so I came here to get my insurance card." "Didn't you check your phone, Mom? I had it transferred directly to your account." For a split second, the room fell silent. Then, a dramatic shift occurred on their faces. Carol's angry scowl melted away, replaced by an unmistakable flash of greedy triumph. She scrambled to find her phone. Ethan, equally eager, snatched it from her hand, his thumb swiping furiously to check for the transfer notification. A few seconds later, the smirk on his face vanished, replaced by a pale, rising fury. He whipped his head around to face me, his eyes blazing as if he wanted to devour me whole. "There's no notification," he snarled. "The account is empty. Who do you think you're fooling, Clara?" In that moment, watching their expressions shift from aggression to greed and then to bitter disappointment, the last remnants of trust one had for them shattered into a million pieces. I finally understood that in their eyes, I wasn't a wife or a daughter-in-law. I was just a fat prize they were trying to tear apart. The air in my parents' living room was thick with tension. The silence after Ethan's accusation was suffocating. Just then, another vehicle screeched to a halt outside. Jessica, my sharp-tongued sister-in-law, burst in, still wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt, her hair a mess. The moment she saw me, she pointed a finger in my face, her voice high and piercing. "You have some nerve, Clara! Tricking my elderly mother at the bank and then trying to sneak off with the money to your parents' house. People as shameless as you are a dime a dozen where I come from." Jessica lunged forward, trying to grab the purse I was clutching to my chest. Her aggressive, unrefined behavior made my mother gasp in horror. My father could no longer contain himself. He slammed his hand flat on the glass coffee table with a loud crack that made everyone jump. He shot to his feet, pointing a trembling finger toward the door, his voice booming with authority. "Is this a marketplace? This is my home. My daughter is unwell, and no one will lay a hand on her here. If you continue to cause a disturbance, I will call the police." My father's stern demeanor and unwavering resolve made the trio falter. Jessica recoiled, muttering curses under her breath as she retreated behind her mother. Seeing that intimidation wasn't working, Carol immediately switched to her well-rehearsed victim act. She collapsed into a chair, slapping her thighs dramatically as crocodile tears streamed down her face. "Oh, heaven help me! I've given my life to my children, worried about every little thing for them. And this is how my in-laws treat me, like a thief!" she wailed. "I was just worried about Clara carrying all that cash. What if she dropped it or got robbed? It's our whole future. It's not like I wanted it for myself," she sobbed, peeking through her fingers to gauge my parents' reactions, but was met only with cold silence and their deeply disappointed stares. Ethan, seeing his mother's over-the-top performance, stepped in to play the role of the reasonable husband. He approached me, his voice soft and placating, but his eyes never left my purse. "Come on, Clara. Mom was just worried about us. Give me the money. I'll take it home. You can stay here and rest for a few days until you feel better. I'm not mad at you." I looked into his eyes and saw the nauseating hypocrisy. I tightened my grip on my purse, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I'm really not feeling well. My blood pressure has dropped. I'm dizzy. The money. I've put it somewhere safe. You should just go home. When I'm better, I'll handle it. Please don't push me. I feel like I'm going to pass out." My mother, seeing my genuinely pale face, a result of fear and stress, quickly stepped in and helped me to the guest room. She turned back to them, her voice firm. "You all need to leave and let her rest. Their finances are their own business to sort out. We won't interfere, but we will not allow anyone to bully our daughter in our own home." Faced with my parents' resolute stance, the three of them reluctantly got up to leave. Before walking out, Ethan shot me a menacing look and whispered just loud enough for me to hear. "You'd better think this through, Clara. Don't make me play rough." The sound of their vehicles faded, restoring quiet to the house. But inside me, a much larger storm was just beginning to brew, fierce and destructive. That night, long after my parents were asleep, I lay awake, tossing and turning. The image of that crumpled note with the word, "Run," haunted me. I quietly got up, changed into dark clothes, and slipped out the back door like a fugitive in my own life. The meeting spot was a small, Dimly lit coffee shop tucked away in a quiet alley, where the faint glow of a street light wasn't enough to clearly see faces. The damp air from the afternoon's rain added to the mysterious atmosphere. I sat huddled in a corner, my hands wrapped around a hot tea, but a chill ran deep in my bones. I watched the door nervously, terrified of being spotted by my in-laws. A few minutes later, a woman in a raincoat and a face mask walked in. She scanned the room and then headed straight for my table. When she pulled down her mask, I recognized her instantly, Grace, the bank teller. And then another memory surfaced. She was my old high school classmate, the girl who sat in front of me in calculus, and was always borrowing my eraser. Grace took my hand. Hers was just as cold as mine. "Clara, I'm so glad you called," she said, her voice a mix of urgency and concern. "I've been worried sick all day. Do you have any idea you're living with a pack of wolves?" Grace pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot from her work computer. Sensitive bank information was redacted, but the core content was clear. It was a pre-authorized withdrawal request. The beneficiary was a name completely foreign to me, Vanessa Dubois. 3 days ago, Grace explained, pointing to the name, Carol came to my window with a young pregnant woman. They were very familiar with each other. Carol kept rubbing the woman's belly, cooing about her grandson. They set up this transfer, claiming it was to send money to their daughter-in-law for prenatal care. I assumed the pregnant woman was you. It wasn't until this morning when I saw her with you and witnessed her aggressive behavior that I got suspicious and checked the file again. The name Vanessa Dubois echoed in my mind like a thunderclap. I had never heard Ethan mention her, but my intuition told me she was the key to this whole nightmare. Grace's voice dropped, filled with sympathy. "I've been in this business a long time, Clara. I know an asset-stripping scheme when I see one. Their plan was flawless. The moment that money hit a savings account in Carol's name, the system would have automatically swept it into Vanessa's account. By the time you realized what happened, it would be too late. Legally, you'd have no recourse because the account was in her name. She could give her money to whomever she wanted. You would have lost that $1 million in the blink of an eye." I sat there, stunned into silence. Hot tears finally spilled over, tracing salty paths down my cheeks. So, Carol's nagging and Ethan's feigned concern were all part of an elaborate play to strip me of everything before kicking me to the curb. That $1 million wasn't just money. It was our sweat, our trust, the entire future I had been building for our family. Grace squeezed my hand gently. "Clara, you need to stay calm." I overheard them talking. "I think this Vanessa woman is the head accountant at your husband's company. You should check your other assets, like your house. I'm afraid the savings account isn't the only thing they're after." Grace's warning was like a bucket of ice water to the face, shocking me out of my grief. Her words echoed in my ears all the way home, "Check your other assets." The next morning, as the sun began to rise, I called my cousin Mark, a paralegal at a large real estate law firm downtown. He sounded groggy, but when he heard the seriousness in my voice, he promised to look into our property records immediately. The minutes ticked by like hours as I waited. I sat curled up in my old bedroom, staring at my phone, praying my suspicions were wrong, praying Ethan had some shred of decency left. But my hopes were shattered when the phone finally rang. Mark's voice was heavy with bad news. "Clara, I checked the county records. It's not good. The condo you and Ethan own, and that 10-acre lot you bought upstate last year, they were both transferred into your mother-in-law's name, Carol Miller, 3 months ago." The phone slipped from my hand onto the bed. My limbs felt like lead. My head spun. Transferred? How could they be transferred without my signature? They were marital assets. Then a memory from 3 months ago flooded back, a slow-motion film of my own gullibility. Ethan had come home with a thick stack of documents, a wide grin on his face. "Honey," he'd said, his voice dripping with sweetness, "the company needs to increase its line of credit to import a huge shipment of lumber. The bank just needs us to finalize some paperwork and get the properties reappraised. Can you sign here for me? I need to get these filed before they close." At the time, trusting him completely and seeing how stressed he was, I had signed my name on every line he marked with a pencil without reading a single page. I let out a bitter laugh, tears of self-loathing streaming down my face. I was laughing at my own pathetic naivety. Buried in that mountain of paperwork had been a quitclaim deed. I had voluntarily signed away my rights to our shared property, allowing Ethan to transfer everything to his mother. They had been planning this for a long time, fattening me up like a pig for slaughter. I had been masterfully deceived by the man I loved most, stripped of my home and land without ever knowing it. I looked around the room I grew up in, thankful I at least had this place to come back to. But the pain of betrayal, of having my life's work stolen, was a physical ache in my chest. I remembered Carol's triumphant look yesterday, the way she caressed the duffel bag. Of course, she already held all the cards. She knew the only thing I had left was that $1 million in cash, and she was determined to swallow that, too. I wiped my tears, my gaze hardening. I couldn't just sit here and cry. I had lost my home, my land, but I would not lose my last shred of dignity. This war was just beginning. After a sleepless night, I decided I couldn't hide at my parents' house forever. That would be admitting defeat and handing them my assets on a silver platter. I needed to return to the lion's den, play the part of the naive wife to buy time and gather more evidence. The next morning, I put on a little makeup to hide my swollen eyes, took a deep, fortifying breath, and took a taxi back to the house. As I walked in, the rich aroma of chicken noodle soup filled the air. A bizarrely domestic scene I hadn't witnessed in the 5 years I'd lived there. Ethan was at the stove, wearing an apron, stirring a large pot. When he saw me, he immediately turned off the burner and rushed over, his face a mask of excessive concern. He took my bag, his voice sickeningly sweet. "You're back. I was so worried, Clara. I kept calling, but you didn't answer. I wanted to come get you, but I was afraid your parents were still upset." He guided me to a chair. "Are you still feeling weak? I made you some chicken soup with herbs. It's good for you." I looked at this man who just yesterday had glared at me with rage and suspicion, now performing a 180-degree turn. I fought back a wave of nausea and managed a weak smile. "I'm better now. I think it was just low blood pressure and stress. Please don't be mad at me." Ethan helped me to the sofa and placed a steaming bowl of soup in front of me. "A husband and wife don't get mad at each other," he cooed, blowing on a spoonful. "Mom was a little hot-headed yesterday, but you know how older people are. They worry. Don't hold it against her. The money is ours no matter where it is, right? Whether she holds it or you do, it's all the same." He was already steering the conversation back to the main point. His hand rested on my shoulder, rubbing it gently, but I could feel the cold calculation in his touch. I kept my head down, pretending to eat the soup, which tasted as bitter as poison. After I finished, Ethan sat closer. "So," he whispered, "that $1 million you brought back, why don't we go deposit it now? The business really needs the working capital for that lumber order. It's not safe keeping that much cash in the house." I knew it. All this kindness was contingent on that money. I set the spoon down, putting on a look of deep regret. "Oh shoot. I completely forgot to tell you. Yesterday, on my way to my parents', I was so scared carrying that much cash that I stopped at an ATM near their place and deposited it all into my personal account." Ethan's face fell, but he quickly forced a smile. "Oh, well, that's fine. A wire transfer is even faster. Can you transfer it to the company account now? We really need it." I shook my head, looking miserable. "That's the problem. I was in such a panic that I entered the wrong PIN 3 times and my card got locked. The bank said it will take 3 to 5 business days to unlock it, and I left my driver's license at my parents' house." Ethan shot up from the couch, unable to hide his frustration. "Clara, how could you be so careless? You got your card locked over a simple deposit? Now, where are we supposed to get the capital?" Watching his true colors bleed through the cracks in his concerned husband facade, I had to suppress a smirk. This cat and mouse game was just getting started. To quell his rising anger, I played the meek wife again, promising to go back to my parents' house to get my ID as soon as possible. Ethan stomped upstairs. A few minutes later, he came down dressed to go out, claiming he had to meet a supplier to ask for a credit extension. He told me to stay home and rest. As his car pulled out of the driveway, I felt no relief. My suspicion about the secrets he was hiding only grew stronger. That night, Ethan came home late, reeking of alcohol. He tossed his keys on the counter and stumbled into the bathroom, muttering curses about difficult clients. As the sound of the shower started, I tiptoed over and grabbed his car keys, my heart pounding like a thief's. I slipped out to the garage and quietly opened the car door. The overpowering scent of men's cologne and stale cigarette smoke hit me. This was my husband's car, yet it felt so alien. I started searching, checking every compartment, hoping to find a clue about this Vanessa. The glove box was empty except for old gas receipts and crumpled cigarette packs. I was about to give up when my eyes landed on the center console armrest. It looked slightly raised, not flush as it usually was. I pried it open and found a small compartment beneath the lining. Tucked inside was a small black burner phone, the kind with a long battery life, strong signal, and most importantly, nearly impossible to trace. The kind of phone a man uses to talk to his mistress. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The screen lit up with a notification for an unread message. I opened the inbox. The words on the screen were like needles stabbing into my heart. The sender was saved as 5 Love. The messages were so crude and brazen, it was hard to believe. "Honey, did you get the $1 million from that old hag yet? The baby's kicking like crazy. I need the down payment for that new SUV this week so I can get to my appointments. Another message sent that afternoon. Remember to play your part. Don't let her get suspicious. As soon as we have the money, we file for divorce and get her out of the house for good. I'm sick of sneaking around. Tears blurred the venomous words on the screen. I bit my lip to keep from sobbing out loud. So, it wasn't just an affair. Ethan was raising another child, the grandson his family so desperately wanted. I took out my own phone and shakily photographed every single message, then carefully placed the burner phone back where I found it, smoothing the lining over it. I sat in the car for a long time, breathing in the smell of deceit, steeling myself for what I had to do next. When I went back to the bedroom, Ethan was snoring loudly, dead to the world. I lay down on the far edge of the bed, a wave of disgust washing over me every time I looked at his sleeping face. The next morning, I pretended to go grocery shopping, but instead went to a library to use a computer and search for Vanessa Dubois. The only clues I had were that she was the accountant at Ethan's company and was close with my sister-in-law, Jessica. I went to Jessica's Facebook page and scrolled back through months of posts. And there it was. In a photo from a fancy restaurant 3 months ago, Jessica had tagged a young woman with a round face and flawless skin named Vanessa Dubois. I clicked on her profile. It was a gallery of a lavish lifestyle, designer handbags, expensive vacations, and most notably, photos documenting a growing baby bump. What made me freeze was seeing Carol and Jessica in so many of the pictures. In one photo of a cozy family dinner, Carol was serving Vanessa food, her face split in a wide grin. She looked at Vanessa with a loving adoration she had never once shown me. In the comments, Jessica had written, "My future sister-in-law is the most beautiful. Can't wait for my little nephew to arrive." Vanessa had replied, "Thanks, Auntie Jess. You and Mom Miller are spoiling me so much." I read their exchanges, feeling like an invisible ghost, completely erased from their picture of a happy family. They had already accepted her as the real daughter-in-law, all because she was carrying Ethan's child, something I couldn't give them after 5 years of marriage. They welcomed her, showered her with gifts, all paid for with the money Ethan and I had earned together. While I was working myself to the bone, they were enjoying life with her. I remembered all the times Carol had complained of backaches to get out of cooking, forcing me to come home from a long day at work and slave away in the kitchen. It turned out she was busy taking care of her precious new daughter-in-law. I bitterly realized that to them I was nothing more than a cash machine, a tool to be used and discarded. Carol's cruelty wasn't just about money. It was about how she stomped on my dignity, conspiring with her sons. Mistress to ruin me, all for the sake of a grandson. I closed the laptop, my heart cold as ash. All my hopes for family and affection were dead. Knowing who my enemies were in the depths of their depravity, I understood that only irrefutable proof would allow me to turn the tables. I went online and ordered a tiny, professional-grade listening device with a long battery life and Wi-Fi connectivity. It arrived that afternoon. When the house was empty, I tested it and looked for the perfect hiding spot. The living room was where Carol and Jessica spent hours gossiping. I chose a spot under the coffee table, hidden from view, and secured it with double-sided tape. That afternoon, I said I was meeting an old friend, but instead went to a quiet cafe down the street. I put in my earbuds and activated the listening app on my phone. My heart pounded in anticipation. Around 4 p.m., I heard the front door open, followed by the cheerful chatter of Carol and Jessica. They sounded happy, like they'd been shopping. Carol plopped down on the sofa with a sigh. "God, my feet are killing me! But it was worth it to get all those cute things for the baby, wasn't it?" Jessica giggled. "Mom, you're spoiling Vanessa rotten. By the way, Clara still hasn't coughed up the money. She keeps making excuses. You don't think she suspects something, do you?" Carol's voice, sharp and dripping with contempt, crackled through my earbuds. "Suspect? What? That girl is an idiot. I know her type. She worships the ground Ethan walks on. A few sweet words from him and she'll do anything. She's just being stingy, trying to hold on to it for a bit." She paused. "You tell Ethan to keep up the pressure. As soon as we get that $1 million, I'll pick a fight with her, accuse her of being disrespectful, and throw her out. Then Ethan files for divorce, and it's a clean break. The assets are all in my name. She can sue all she wants. She'll leave with nothing. Serves her right for being barren." Jessica chimed in gleefully. "That's right, Mom. Get rid of her. I can't stand the sight of her gloomy face. Once Vanessa moves in, this house will finally feel alive. And with a grandson on the way, our family will be truly blessed." Every word was a knife twisting in my heart. I clenched my fist so tightly my nails dug into my palms. But the pain kept me focused. I was done being a victim. My patience had only given them more opportunities to hurt me. I swore to myself they would pay for every single cruel word they said today. In the days that followed, our home transformed into a stage where everyone played their despicable roles. I buried my pain and wore my usual mask of a submissive wife, waiting for the right moment. And then, the final actress in this tragic comedy made her entrance. One Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. Ethan rushed to open it with uncharacteristic enthusiasm. A young, heavily made-up woman walked in, dressed in a stylish maternity dress that couldn't hide her prominent baby bump. "Clara," Ethan said, his tone shockingly casual. "This is Vanessa, our company's new head accountant. She's here to go over some year-end tax figures and wanted to say hi to Mom." I looked at the woman, the same one from the secret phone. She scanned me from head to toe with an expression of pity mixed with contempt, then offered a sickly sweet smile. "Hi, Clara. I've heard so much about you from Ethan and Mrs. Miller." What disgusted me most was Carol's reaction. The woman who constantly complained about aches and pains suddenly moved with surprising agility. She rushed to help Vanessa to the sofa, fluffing pillows behind her back. "Oh, you poor thing. Working so hard while you're pregnant. Be careful you don't overdo it," she cooed, peeling an orange and handing a slice directly to Vanessa. She stared at Vanessa's belly with an undisguised longing, a look she had never given me in 5 years. Vanessa took the orange, casually brushing her hair back to reveal a faint lipstick smudge on the collar of Ethan's shirt. It was a mark I was sure she'd planted just before walking in. "You're too kind, Mrs. Miller," she said, her voice dripping with false modesty. "It reminds me of what my own mother always says, a woman who can't bear children is like a dead tree in the house, just taking up space. Being pregnant is tiring, but when I think about giving this family an heir, it's all worth it." Her words were a poisoned dart aimed directly at my infertility struggles. I sat across from them, clenching my fists to stop them from shaking. I watched their twisted performance of a happy family, doting mother-in-law, caring husband, pregnant mistress. While I, the legal wife, was made to feel like an unwanted piece of furniture, I stood up, mumbling an excuse about making tea to hide my tear-filled eyes. But any lingering feelings of submission had died. They dared to bring his mistress into my home, to humiliate me under my own roof. They would soon regret underestimating me. Vanessa's appearance seemed to accelerate my in-laws' greed. They were done waiting. That evening, as I was washing dishes, I heard a loud thud from the living room, followed by Ethan's frantic shouting. I ran out to find Carol sprawled on the floor, clutching her chest, gasping for air, her face a mask of agony. Ethan was beside her, rubbing her chest. "Clara, what are you standing there for? Mom's having a heart attack. Get the smelling salts." I ran to get them, but my mind was racing. Carol had mild high blood pressure, but never a heart condition this severe. And she had been perfectly healthy just that morning while fawning over Vanessa. Ethan helped her up, his voice thick with manufactured panic. "Mom, hang in there. You must have gotten sick worrying about the money. Clara, we have to get her to the hospital for heart surgery immediately. The doctor said it could cost up to $1 million. Carol moaned, her eyes cracking open to glare at me. "I'm dying. My chest is going to explode. Where will we get the money? Just let me die and be done with it." It was a blatant, pathetic attempt to pressure me into giving them the money to save her life. The old me would have panicked and handed it all over, but the new me saw right through them. Calmly, I took out my phone. Instead of opening my banking app, I dialed 911. Ethan saw what I was doing and panicked. "Who are you calling? Just give me the money so I can get a taxi to a private hospital. By the time an ambulance gets here, she'll be dead." I looked him straight in the eye, my voice cold. "She's in critical condition. A taxi would be too dangerous. An ambulance has paramedics and equipment. They can treat her on the spot. Her life is what's most important. We'll worry about the money later." 15 minutes later, the wail of a siren filled the street. 2 paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. They immediately took Carol's blood pressure and listened to her heart and lungs. Carol, trapped in her own lie, continued to moan, but the sweat on her brow was from fear, not pain. The young paramedic removed his stethoscope, a puzzled look on his face. "This is strange," he said, looking at the readings. "Her blood pressure is slightly elevated, likely from stress, but her heart rhythm and breathing are perfectly normal. There are no signs of a heart attack or acute cardiac failure. It seems to be a mild case of vertigo. She just needs to lie down and rest. No hospital visit is necessary." The paramedic's diagnosis was a slap in the face to Ethan and Carol. Ethan stood there dumbfounded, his face turning beet red with humiliation. Carol immediately stopped moaning. She sat up, coughing awkwardly to cover her embarrassment. "Oh, is that so? I really thought I was a goner. I must have worried myself sick." I looked at them and allowed myself a small internal smirk. Their clumsy performance had ended in a humiliating failure. After the fake heart attack fiasco, the atmosphere in the house became incredibly tense. Knowing they couldn't trick me with health scares, they resorted to psychological warfare, cold shoulders, and suffocating silence. I knew I was running out of time. I needed to keep them placated for a few more days while my father's lawyer finalized the lawsuit and filed for an asset freeze. So, I decided to dangle a piece of bait. I knew they couldn't resist a piece of poison-laced candy. That evening I knocked on Carol's door. She was counting her jewelry and quickly hid it when I entered, her face sour. I approached her, bowing my head in feigned remorse. "Mom, I've been thinking. The doctor said your high blood pressure is from stress, and I feel terrible. Money isn't everything. Family is what's important." I pulled a blue savings passbook from my pocket and placed it on the table in front of her. It was in my name with a balance of exactly $1 million. Carol's eyes lit up like high beams. She snatched the passbook, flipping through the pages, her trembling fingers stroking the numbers as if they were sacred relics. Her attitude shifted instantly. She grinned from ear to ear. There, now I knew my daughter-in-law was a good, sensible girl. "This is the right decision, Clara. I'm just holding this for you and Ethan's future. What would an old woman like me do with $1 million?" She clutched the book to her chest like a precious treasure. Ethan, who had been watching from the doorway, let out a sigh of relief. He walked in and patted my shoulder. "You're the best, honey. You did the right thing." I nodded meekly and left the room, a cold smile playing on my lips. What they didn't know was that the passbook was worthless. That morning I had gone to the bank, reported the original lost, and had a new one issued with a new account number. As per bank policy, the moment the old passbook was reported lost, it was rendered invalid for any transactions. The money was safe. They were celebrating over a dud. Their greed had blinded them to the possibility that their docile daughter-in-law had finally learned to fight back. With the useless passbook in hand, my in-laws let their guards down completely, revealing their true natures faster than I could have imagined. Vanessa started coming over more frequently, no longer a guest, but strutting around as if she owned the place. One afternoon, Carol was out and Ethan was at work, leaving just Vanessa and me at home. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she strolled in, sipping a glass of orange juice. She leaned against the refrigerator, eyeing me with open provocation. "You're a pretty good cook, Clara," she purred. "I can see why Ethan said it might be worth keeping you around as a maid. Saves money on hiring help." I stopped chopping vegetables and looked at her, my face a blank mask. "What did you say?" She let out a derisive laugh. "Oh, don't play dumb. Did you really think handing over that passbook would save you? Do you know how many times Ethan and I have been in that bed you sleep in? You should do yourself a favor and get out now before you're thrown out like trash." Her audacity was breathtaking. She had stolen my husband and my money, and now she wanted to trample on my dignity. But instead of slapping her as my instinct screamed, I remembered my lawyer's advice. I surreptitiously reached into my apron pocket and pressed the record button on the small device I now carried everywhere. I took a deep breath, feigning fear. "How can you admit that? Aren't you afraid of karma? You and my husband are having an affair and trying to steal my assets, aren't you?" Seeing me tremble, she grew bolder, thinking I was completely broken. She leaned in close, her voice a venomous whisper. "That's right, you fool. Karma? In this world, money is power. The house, the land, it's all in his mother's name now. That $1 million is in her hands too. You have nothing. You are just the golden goose. We have the eggs. Now it's time to cook the goose. After I give birth to this family's heir, you'll see what hell really looks like." Every self-incriminating word was captured perfectly by the device in my pocket. I lowered my head to hide the fire in my eyes, but a sense of victory surged through me. Her arrogance would be her downfall. I said nothing more, just turned back to my chopping board, the knife coming down with a new, resolute force. With the recording in my possession, I knew I couldn't fight this battle alone. The next morning, I used the excuse of needing my ID to unlock my bank card and went to my parents' house. The moment I saw them watering plants in the front yard, the dam of pent-up grief broke. I ran into my mother's arms and sobbed like a child. After I calmed down, I placed the recorder on the table and pressed play. In the quiet of their modest home, Vanessa's cruel taunts and Carol's wicked scheming filled the air. My father, a man who had been a teacher his entire life, listened, his face turning a deep shade of red, his hands clenched into fists, veins popping on his temples. When the recording ended, he slammed his hand on the table. "Those animals," he roared, his voice shaking with fury. "What do they think my daughter is? Something to be used up and thrown away?" My mother wept, her heart breaking for the daughter she had raised so carefully. "Clara, come home," she pleaded. "Leave that house. We may not be rich, but we won't let you starve. Those people will destroy you. I looked at my parents, my heart aching, but my resolve was firm. If I left now, I'd lose everything. Don't worry, I said, my voice steady. I'm not going to let them win. I've lost my home, my land, and my youth to that family. I'm going to get it all back. Dad, I need your help. My father's anger transformed into determination. Anything, Clara. I'll sell this house if I have to hire the best lawyer for you. We will fight them. I leaned in and whispered my plan for Carol's upcoming 70th birthday party. The trap I would set to expose them in front of everyone. Returning to the house, armed with photocopies of my ID to keep up the charade, I was met with renewed warmth. Believing the million was as good as theirs, they dropped their guard and focused all their energy on Carol's milestone birthday party. Invitations were printed on gaudy gold embossed cardstock and sent to everyone they knew, relatives, neighbors, Ethan's business partners. Carol wanted to show off her son's success. And, more importantly, to officially introduce Vanessa to society. At dinner one night, Carol announced, Clara, for my party, I'm planning a huge celebration. I want to invite Vanessa too. After all, she's been such a help to Ethan's business, and she's pregnant. We need to show our gratitude. I kept my eyes on my plate. Whatever you think is best, Mom. Ethan saw my compliance, and shot his mother a triumphant look. A few days before the party, Ethan tossed a bundle of fabric at me. It was an old, frumpy purple polyester dress that Carol hadn't worn in a decade. Wear this, he ordered. We'll have important guests. I don't want you showing off in some flashy dress. And on the day of the party, you stay in the kitchen and supervise the caterers. Don't come out and mingle. You're so clumsy, you'd probably drop something and embarrass me. I held the dress, the smell of mothballs stinging my nose. He wanted to hide me away like a dirty secret, to make room for his glamorous mistress. He wanted to turn me into a servant in my own home. He had no idea how ludicrous he sounded. Of course, Ethan, I said, nodding obediently. I'll make sure to fulfill my duties. My duty, I thought, to bring the curtain down on their entire charade. In the days leading up to the party, the house was a whirlwind of activity. While they were busy with decorations and fittings, I was quietly preparing for my own main event. I met with my father's lawyer friend, Leo, and finalized the lawsuit. Clara, he said, looking over the evidence, this is more than enough to put them away, or at least bankrupt them. I've already filed for an emergency asset freeze. The court will serve the papers the Monday after the party. They won't be able to move a dime. I also secretly hired a professional AV team, telling Ethan I wanted a large LED screen to play a slideshow of family photos as a surprise for his mother. He was thrilled, praising my thoughtfulness. He didn't know the screen wasn't for family photos, but for the premiere of a blockbuster film about his family's true face. I edited the recordings and messages into a single damning video, ready to be played. The night before the party, I lay in bed next to Ethan's snoring form, feeling preternaturally calm. The tears were gone, replaced by the cold patience of a hunter waiting for the trap to spring. Enjoy your last peaceful sleep, I thought, because tomorrow you will wake up in a nightmare of your own making. Sunday morning, the neighborhood was blasted with loud music from our house. A grand arch of flowers stood at the entrance, and a large marquee tent covered the entire backyard. Carol, dressed in a gaudy red velvet gown and dripping in gold jewelry, my wedding jewelry, which she had borrowed and never returned, greeted guests with a beaming smile. Vanessa arrived around noon, stepping out of a luxury car in a pristine white maternity dress. Carol rushed to greet her like royalty. Ethan stood beside her, looking at her with undisguised adoration. The two of them whispering and laughing, completely ignoring my existence. And me? Just as planned. I was in the kitchen wearing the old purple dress, sweat plastering my hair to my forehead as I directed the catering staff. Ethan would occasionally storm in, not to see if I was okay, but to yell, "Why is the food so slow? Get it out there! Don't you dare embarrass me in front of my guests!" I bit my tongue and nodded, my hands clenching so hard I nearly crushed the vegetables I was washing. Yell all you want, I thought. This is the last time you will ever speak to me like that. The MC's voice boomed from the backyard. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event. Please welcome the Miller family to the stage. Ethan adjusted his tie. You stay down here, he hissed at me. Don't you dare show your face. He turned and walked away, leaving me among the dirty dishes. But he was wrong. I ripped off my apron, threw it in a corner, and pulled out the small remote for the LED screen. The music swelled as I slipped out a side door and stood in the shadows, watching the brightly lit stage where the people who had ruined my life were soaking in the applause. Ethan took the microphone, his face flushed with wine and excitement. Carol sat on a velvet, throne-like chair, fanning herself, beaming as people praised her. Wonderful son. Thank you all for coming to celebrate my mother's 70th birthday, Ethan began. I wouldn't be where I am today without her. But I also have to thank a very special person, a true savior. He gestured toward Vanessa. This is Vanessa, our head accountant and my guardian angel. When our business was struggling, she stood by my side. My mother loves her like a daughter, and soon our family will be receiving a priceless gift from her, the next generation to carry the Miller family name. A murmur went through the crowd as all eyes turned to Vanessa and her swollen belly. She blushed demurely, but a triumphant smirk played on her lips. Carol took the microphone next. It's true, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I have been blessed. This family has struggled with certain issues for years. My daughter-in-law, well, let's not dwell on sad things. I thought I would go to my grave without ever holding a grandchild, but heaven has smiled upon me. Their words cut through me. They had publicly erased me, denied my 5 years of sacrifice. In their eyes, I was a failure, a barren tree to be cut down. I looked at my shabby dress, then at Vanessa's designer gown. The cruel contrast ignited the last of my resolve. I held the remote tightly and walked purposefully toward the stage. My sudden appearance from the wings, disheveled and in my drab dress, brought the chatter to a halt. Ethan's face went from celebratory to furious. What are you doing? Security! Get her off the stage! He roared. But my cousins, planted in the audience by my father, formed a human wall, blocking anyone from reaching me. I snatched the microphone from the stunned MC. Good evening, everyone! My voice rang out, no longer timid, but sharp and clear. I am Clara, Carol's daughter-in-law and Ethan's wife. For my mother-in-law's birthday, I too have a special gift I'd like to share with the whole family. Before Ethan could react, I pressed a button on the remote. The giant LED screen behind the stage flickered, and the festive slideshow was replaced by a video shot from under their living room coffee table. The sound boomed through the speakers. That girl is an idiot, Carol's voice snarled. Once she gives us the $1 million, I'll find an excuse and throw her out. The assets are all in my name. She'll leave with nothing. Then Ethan's voice. Don't worry, Mom. Vanessa's getting impatient. We need to get rid of that barren cow as soon as possible. I'm sick of looking at her miserable face. A collective gasp went through the crowd. The party went dead silent. Guests stared from the screen to the people on stage, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust. Carol's face was ashen. Vanessa shrank behind Ethan. I stood there watching their world crumble, feeling not joy, but a profound sadness for the depths of their depravity. The video ended. The whispers began, growing into a roar of condemnation. But I wasn't finished. I clicked the remote again. Bank statements filled the screen. Every transaction highlighted. This is the savior my husband spoke of, I announced, my voice trembling with emotion. A savior who received $100,000 a month in living expenses from our company account. A savior who received a $200,000 wire transfer for a condo down payment the same week I had to sell my wedding jewelry to keep the business afloat. I pointed to a line item highlighted in red. Wire transfer, car for 5, love. This was my money, my sleepless nights, my skipped meals. And they used it to fund their affair. I turned to Carol. Mom, do you remember when my own mother needed surgery? And I asked Ethan for $500 for the hospital bill? He said the company was broke. That same day, he transferred $5,000 to Vanessa for a spa day. Where was your conscience? An older man in the crowd, a great uncle, stood up, shaking with rage. This is a disgrace. This family, pretending to be so righteous, is rotten to the core. Ethan was frozen, sweat pouring down his face. Vanessa looked like she was about to faint. I clicked the remote one last time. A DNA test result appeared on the screen. I had hired a private investigator who had managed to get samples. The conclusion was undeniable. Probability of paternity 99.99%. Next to it flashed the screenshots of the texts from the burner phone. Don't worry, baby. I read aloud. Once we get the last $1 million from her, I'll kick her out. No point in feeding a hen that can't lay eggs. The phrase, hen that can't lay eggs, struck Carol like a physical blow. She who prided herself on being a devout woman was exposed as a hypocrite. You call me barren, I cried, tears now streaming freely. But did you ever ask why? I had 2 miscarriages from overwork and stress trying to build this company, this family. And your response was for my husband to find a new womb and then humiliate me with it. The shock was too much for Carol. She clutched her chest. Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. This time it wasn't an act. It was a massive stroke. The party devolved into chaos. Guests started leaving in droves, some kicking over tables in disgust. I stood on the ruined stage watching them drown in the filth they had created. And for the first time in years, I felt a sense of release, as if a great weight had been lifted from my soul. Amid the chaos, I revealed my final, most devastating blow. I switched the slide on the LED screen one last time. 2 property deeds appeared, magnified for all to see. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. This is our family home and a vacation property I bought with my own savings. 3 months ago, Ethan tricked me into signing what I thought were business loan documents. In reality, it was a quitclaim deed, transferring ownership of everything to his mother. I pointed to the name on the screen. Owner, Carol Miller. Their plan was to leave me homeless and penniless. But they forgot one thing. I played the final audio clip, Vanessa's smug voice echoing through the tent. The assets are all in his mother's name now. That $1 million is in her hands too. You have nothing. You were just the golden goose. We have the eggs. Now it's time to cook the goose. The sheer audacity of it sent the remaining crowd into a fury. A plate flew from the audience and shattered at Ethan's feet. Beer cans and food followed. Thieves! Scum! People shouted. Vanessa screamed in terror. Ethan tried to shield her. Carol lay on the floor babbling incoherently. Just then, the wail of police sirens grew louder. The tent flaps parted and my lawyer Leo walked in, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers. He strode to the stage, holding a thick file. I am Leo Martinez, legal counsel for Miss Clara Evans, he announced, his voice commanding silence. I am here with officers of the law to serve a court order. He held up a document with an official seal. This is an emergency injunction freezing all assets, bank accounts, and real estate registered to Carol Miller and Ethan Miller, pending an investigation into fraudulent conveyance and conspiracy to commit fraud. Ethan's legs gave out. Freeze? You can't do that, he stammered. The law can. Leo replied sternly. We have irrefutable evidence that you and your mother conspired to illegally transfer marital assets. The police officer stepped forward to take Ethan and Carol's statements. The sight of the uniforms was the final straw for Carol. Her eyes went wide. A gurgling sound escaped her lips and she began to convulse. This time it was real. The paramedics who had been called for the commotion now had a genuine patient. As Carol was wheeled out on a stretcher, her gaudy red dress stained and torn, Ethan was escorted away by the police for questioning. His hands were cuffed behind his back. A final humiliating end to his reign of deceit. Vanessa, seeing her meal ticket gone, tried to sneak out the back, but she was cornered by my aunts. Where do you think you're going? One of them snapped, grabbing her by the arm. You destroy a family and think you can just walk away? Vanessa burst into tears, her arrogance gone. Please let me go, she begged, falling to her knees. It was Ethan. He seduced me. I'm pregnant. Have mercy. I walked over and looked down at her. You had no mercy when you were plotting to take everything from me. The baby is innocent, but having a mother like you is its greatest misfortune. I asked my relatives to make sure she didn't leave before the police could speak with her. Then I quietly went inside and packed a small bag. The house, once a home, now felt like a cold, contaminated tomb. I walked out the front gate. The afternoon sun was setting, casting a long, solitary shadow behind me. I had destroyed a family, yes, but it was a necessary demolition to build my own life on a foundation of truth. 3 days later, Ethan was released on bail. He showed up at my parents' house in a downpour, looking like a wreck. He fell to his knees in the mud outside the gate, wailing my name. Clara, I was wrong. Please forgive me. She put a spell on me. My mother forced me. I still love you. I walked out with an umbrella and stood before him. The love I once felt was gone, replaced by a cold disgust. Get up, Ethan. Don't dirty my parents' driveway, I said. You were forced? Who tricked me into signing away our house? Who called me a hen that can't lay eggs? Who wired my money to his mistress? I know I'm scum, he sobbed, rain and tears mixing on his hollowed-out face. But my mom is paralyzed. The company is bankrupt. I've lost everything. For the sake of our years together, drop the lawsuit. I'll treat you like a queen, I swear. He still didn't get it. He wasn't sorry for hurting me. He was sorry he got caught. Our years together ended the day you brought her into our lives, I said, my voice like ice. The divorce papers are filed. Our assets will be divided by the court. We are strangers now. Never come here again. I turned and walked back inside, leaving him kneeling in the rain. My father, unable to restrain himself any longer, grabbed a broom and ran out, swatting at him. Get out! Get out of here, you ungrateful parasite! Ethan scrambled away like a beaten dog. The sound of the rain on the roof felt like applause. The rumors of what happened next trickled back to me through old neighbors. Ethan had hoped Vanessa, pregnant with his precious heir, would stand by him. He was wrong. He went to the hospital where Carol was recovering and begged Vanessa for money to pay the medical bills. Money? she had shrieked in the middle of the ward. Are you insane? My money is for my baby, not to support your broke family. That money was payment for my youth, for being your surrogate. Now that you're worthless, you expect me to go down with you. No way. If there's no money, I'm not having this baby. Carol, lying paralyzed in her bed, heard every word. Silent tears of regret streamed down her face. When Ethan tried to grab Vanessa, she clawed at his face, and the two had to be separated by security. Their great love affair, stripped of its financial foundation, was nothing but ugly, transactional greed. The day we went to court, it was a gray, miserable day. I walked in confident and composed with Leo by my side. Ethan sat hunched and defeated. The judge was swift. The fraudulent property transfer was nullified. Due to Ethan's egregious marital fault, I was awarded 70% of our total assets. Ethan was left with the worthless debt-saddled lot upstate, and a mountain of legal fees. Holding the divorce decree, I stepped out of the courthouse into the fresh, rain-washed air of freedom. The sun was breaking through the clouds. My past was over. A year has passed. My life has found a quiet rhythm. The news about my old family is a tragic epilogue. Ethan's company went bankrupt. He now drives for Uber to make ends meet. After giving birth to a son, Vanessa, seeing no future with a broke loser, abandoned the baby with the Millers and ran off with a new wealthy man. The precious grandson Carol had sacrificed everything for became the final ironic burden. Paralyzed and incontinent, she now lives with Ethan in a cramped, squalid apartment, forced to listen to the cries of a baby she can't care for, and the drunken curses of the son she ruined. It is a hell of their own making. With the money I rightfully reclaimed, I opened a small flower shop I named Serenity Blooms. Life is simple now, filled with the scent of roses and the quiet joy of creating beauty. My days are peaceful. Today, the sun is bright. As I arranged a bucket of daisies outside my shop, I saw him across the street. Ethan, dressed in a faded rideshare t-shirt. He looked haggard and broken. He stood behind a tree, just watching me. He took a half step forward, then stopped, a wall of shame holding him back. I met his gaze, feeling not hatred or triumph, but a strange, calm detachment. He was a stranger from a past life. I had forgiven them, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Ethan turned and shuffled away, disappearing into the lunchtime crowd. I turned back to my flowers, took a deep breath of the fragrant air, and smiled as the bell on my shop door chimed, announcing a new customer, a new day, a new life, planted and nurtured by my own two hands. This whole experience changed me forever. I mean, who knew such darkness could hide behind a sweet smile? Have you ever faced a betrayal that completely reshaped your life? What did you do to reclaim your peace? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.